At the beginning of the year, there are 5 to 7 people who come together who know nothing about each other. So we start out with a very diverse group of people. This is a combination of staff as well as trainees. The challenge, therefore, is the diversity of the group. You have the ethnic diversity, you have religious diversity, you have cultural diversity.
Inevitably, our intentions are driven in large part by our identities, who we are racially, ethnically, culturally, religiously, who we are from a family perspective. And so trying to be as clear and as vulnerable as we can about our intention is one way of working with diversity. It's a way of telling people who we are.
I've found over time that the richer the diversity of religious background is in the composition of the members of the SERT group, the richer the conversations are. It's an invitation for people to become more explicit about their own beliefs, their own practices, and there's something about working across tradition that seems to call that into particularly sharp focus.
I think the most important thing is to talk about it, not to make an assumption that it's okay just because some of us share the same gender or the same race or the same age, that those differences are still there, regardless of how similar we may feel in other respects, and that some of the things that make us similar can be deceptive. So the more we talk about what's different among us, the better it is, so that we don't make those assumptions.
Given the short amount of time, it's only around 9 months that we have to really sit with the differences that we have with each other. I kind of feel my anxiety. Sometimes I follow it when I'm feeling brave enough. Sometimes I don't. The times that I have followed it, it paid off with tremendous dividends.
My SERT group was always very conscious about diversity. I believe it was present in every session, whether it was through our own narratives and sharing with one another or through talking about a case. We always made sure to bring in concerns around spirituality, culture, or race. We also had one of our members bring in an instrument that assessed your own awareness around race. So we were able to take some time looking at ourselves and find out maybe where we were lacking, and that was a very enlightening conversation.
I've had some experiences where there's been a lot of diversity in the group religiously, as well as culturally or racially. And I remember one particular year where there were a couple Christian members, some Jewish members, a Muslim member, and there was so much cross-religious, cross-spiritual exchange that it really opened up all the topics.
If we have an evangelical Protestant trainee and a Reformed Jewish supervisor in the room together, talking about things like healing, grace, God, and Jesus, the room's going to be full of assumptions and intentions that if we just left it alone, we would never find each other. That's why we create a lot of room for each person to speak to their intention and to begin that tender discussion about what we're actually expecting from another who's very different from us.
One of the appreciations that we come to every year in a SERT group is the ways in which our cultural backgrounds have formed our communication style, how we manage conflict, how quickly we are able to be intimate with one another. So it's a bit of a moving target every year.
It's not so much knowing how to address these issues from a particular perspective, but it's being able to talk with anybody from any perspective about the big issues that plague our consciousness, like what happens after you die, and is there a God, and just being comfortable with having those conversations with people of all different kinds of orientations. So it's not so much knowing what each person thinks from the outset, but how to engage with people from all different backgrounds on these very fundamental human questions.